Okay, start to move yourself through your cat-cows. Do your opening stretches, whatever you feel like doing. Remember, you're graduating into upward dog, child's poses. And then make your way up into a kneeling position. So take a moment, think about how your knees feel. If they're uncomfortable here, it's not going to get any better. Step your left foot forward and sink into your lunge. Put your arms up and back. Oh, everything is cracking. Feels great. Inhale. Exhale, hands onto either side of your foot. 1, 2 back. 1, 2 forward. Bring it back. This is your hamstring stretch. So move your hands back so that you can flatten your back. Bring the shoulders down and back. Open through the collarbone. Lift your tailbone. Come forward onto the inside of the leg. Tuck the back toe. Step your front foot back. You're going to widen your hands just a smidge. And then knee into the chest. Bring it back. Knee into the chest. Bring it back. Shoulders over your fingernails. They don't move. Just knee in. 1, 2, 1, 2. Last ones. 1, 2, 1, 2. Toes to the mat. Knees to the mat. Child's pose. When you are ready, same thing on the other side. Bring your opposite foot forward. Sink into your lunge. Think about where your shoulders and your hips are squared to. They should be squared to the top of your mat. And then lift your arms up. Interlacing the fingers, we're lifting up and back. Inhale and exhale. Bring your hands down onto either side of your foot. Walk your hands back. So we go 1, 2 back, 1, 2 forward. And then walk it back, holding here. Dig your hands, or dig your heels down. Walk your hands back wherever they need to be. Lift your tailbone. And then come forward, arm to the inside of the leg, tuck the back toes, step the front foot back now. Widen your hands a bit, and you're gonna bring your knees in just a bit quicker. 1, 2, 1, 2. For 3, 2. Last ones. Toes to the mat, knees to the mat. Child's pose. And then come forward, drop your hips. All right, and push yourself back. Okay, coming down onto your stomach. Take a moment here, figure out how you like to rest. Do you like to stack your hands? Do you like your arms long beside you? Heels towards the glutes. Bring the arms long beside you. We're anchoring the pelvis, floating everything up. So lifting thighs, chest, arms up off the mat. We want the wrists in line with the shoulders. And now if you want to, you can straighten the legs, deciding if you need to squeeze the glutes or not. Remember, you want to save your glute squeezing for the deeper extensions. But if you are lifting up fairly high here, I definitely squeeze my glutes when I'm lifting up. So if you need to, that's fine. We inhale and lower down, taking a moment to rest. And then bring the arms out in front of you, reaching your fingers to whatever is in front of you. Bring your right heel towards your glutes. Bring your right hand around to grab a hold of your foot. Look out over your left fingertips. Push your foot into your hand. Pardon me. Floating your knee and your thigh up off of the mat. Inhale as we exhale. Release it down. Same thing on the other side. Bring your heel towards your glutes. Reach your hand around to grab a hold of your foot. Push your foot into your hand, lifting your knee and your thigh up off of the mat. Inhale, release it out. Elbows wide. Stack your hands, rest your chin or your forehead on your hands, and move your invisible tail side to side. All right, heels towards the glutes, arms long beside you, anchoring your pelvis again. Bring your knees as wide as you think, or as wide as you think you need to reach around and grab a hold of your feet. And then bring your knees nice and close, anchor the pelvis, push the feet into the hands, and lift everything up. Send everything towards the back of the mat. Inhale and release. Transition into a child's pose, pressing the bum back, reaching your fingers forward so you're moving opposite directions. And then transitioning into a seated position, legs out in front of you. All right, so seated, nice and tall on your sit bones, thinking of bringing the shoulders down, bringing the shoulders back, pulling the belly button in with that slight little lift of your chest. Okay, come forward, lead with your chest, pull the belly button in. Just make sure our toes and our knees aren't rolling out to the side. If you see it this way, you're not letting your toes and your knees roll out. Toes and knees point up as you reach back. And then bring your arms out in front of you, nice and slow. We're going to lower down just onto our tailbone. And then come back up. Onto your tailbone. And come back up. Okay, so continuing your half ones, or if you'd like to, lowering all the way down, arms out in front of you, acting like a little bit of a counterweight as we lower. Inhale the arms back. Exhale, roll up. I don't think my whole giant body is going to fit into the frame for this, so you probably won't see my feet and my hands at the same time. Nobody freak out. Inhale back. Exhale forward. Okay, one more. Reach back. Exhale forward. And then we're lowering onto our tailbone. Think of keeping your feet flat, having your heels, knees, and hips lined up, belly pulled in. We're really scooping out, hollowing out the lower abdominals. Shoulders heavy and plugged in. Pull that left knee. Should we say pull? No. Float your left heel up. Bring your left knee in towards your chest. And now straighten the toes, the leg up. Remembering that shoulders are heavy, plugged in, belly in as you lift up your chest. We lower. Bring your foot flat. Same thing. Bring it up. Float it up, shoulders down and back as the chest lifts. Bring your belly button in. Nice and slow. Lower. Bring your foot back. Hand down, hand down. Move your knee side to side. Okay, so let's lift up once. Take a moment, adjust your heels where you need them to be, to have knees over the heels, wrists under the shoulders, and then drop your butt down. Take a second, float your left leg up again. You're going to move it in just a little bit closer to the chest when we lift up. So dig into your heel, your hands, lift up, right? Keeping your hips level, knee over top of your hip, pushing the mat away from you with your heel in your hands for 3, 2, bring your butt down, bring your foot down, same thing the other side, float the knee up. So really just actually lift the heel up first, right? Just to get the heel and knee lined up. And then when we lift, you bring it back a bit to get your knee over top of your hip. Push into your hands, push into your heels, looking up at the ceiling. Inhale, lower down, foot down, reach forward, reach back at the same time. And then let's lower. Nice and slow, arms out. You can lower all the way or halfway down. Inhaling back. Exhaling to lift. Lowering onto your tailbone. So holding here. Bring one foot back. Bring the other foot back. So let's just straighten the leg right up. And as you do so, you're going to do your shoulder down and back, chest lift, belly in, right? So it's all sort of combined into one movement. And now look, have the thighs lined up and really aim to keep your thighs lined up as we slowly lower. Inhale the fingers to the wall behind you. Wide swoop, out and up. Bring your foot down. So shoulder chest fit as we float the toes up, nice and slow. Keep the thighs level. As we lower, inhale back, wide swoop out and up. Foot down, hand down, side to side. Let's turn the fingers to the sides of the mat this time. And again, we'll lift up. So figure out exactly where your wrists and your heels need to be when we lift up. I can feel I want to move my heels a little bit further down. Okay, so now from here, we're just going to float right leg up. Float it up, knee over top of your hip. Lower. Same thing other side. Float it up. And lower. One more each side. Exhale up. Inhale down. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Bring your butt down. Push forward. Reach back. Lower either halfway or all the way. Roll up. And then lower onto our tailbone. So now we're going to keep the legs out. You want the weight of your leg to help you bring one leg up and bring your other leg up. Right? So you want heels, knees, wrists, elbows, shoulders to all line up. Lift the heels up, bring the knees in. So we're going to reach everything forward. Don't actually let your heels touch the mat, but reach everything forward. Bring your knees in. As we bring the arms back, wide swoop out and up. Right? So there's a bit of a learning curve to it, and you do want to slow it down as much as you can. Now go for straight legs. Same thing. Reach it all forward. Inhale back. Wide swoop out and up. For 3, 2, feet to the mat, hands to the mat, side to side. Okay, so now bring it out, and we're going to start from bridge this time. So we'll begin here, hands down, right foot down, lift it up, lower, back into boat pose, into teaser, Navasana, left foot down, hands down, lift it up, lower. So we're going to do that one more on each side. All right, so you're going to do hands down, foot down, lift up. Remember that the knee has to pull back slightly to end up over top of the hip. Lower down. Same thing on the side. Foot down, hands down, float it up. Lower down, and this time, push forward, reach back. And then nice and slow, let's lower. Oh, it's getting hot in here. Open a window. Okay, let's lower all the way down. So we'll take a moment or two just to do some hip rolls and create a bit of a release for your hips. So we want to start by touching your heels with your middle fingers, moving your arms a bit of ways away from the body, just enough that you're not tempted to sneak your shoulders underneath you. So we are anchoring the low back down to the mat, and then beginning to peel the head, neck, and no, that's a lie. Beginning to peel your tailbone up, right? So you're starting from invert. We don't want any space between the small of the back and the mat. You are completely pressing your low back down and maintaining that positioning of your pelvis as you peel up from the tailbone. Vertebrae by vertebrae, we lift, and vertebrae by vertebrae, we lower. So just doing nice slow movements. The lowering is not quite as important as the lift. With the lift, you need to make sure you're keeping your tilt. And lifting up again until you feel that sort of strengthening, stretching, release across the front of the hips. You have to, of course, adjust the feet so that we're not feeling tension in the knees or in the low back. You've got to figure out where you want your big toes to point, where you want your knees to be positioned, and where exactly the heels should be. And you should be able to do this, or you're aiming to do this. I shouldn't say should. We're aiming to do this in a way where you feel quite a bit of activation in your glutes, And it's never from lifting and squeezing and thrusting. It's always just from really pressing into the heels and having your feet to your knees and your pelvis positioned properly. Okay, lowering all the way down. Bring the knees into the chest. And then right leg will come long on the mat, left knee comes into the chest. Struggle to get the whole body into, I'm happy with this. Yes, okay. I've got my right leg on the mat. I've got my left knee into the chest. So whatever you decide is fine, but the leg that's out, you want to really anchor that heel down to the mat. So we want to stretch before and after our leg circles, remember. Reach the toes up, elbows out, using a bit of arm strength to bring the knee, the leg in towards the chest. And remember, you want to make this uncomfortable, right? Keep the shoulders down. Use a bit of arm strength to bring the leg in as much as we can so that this is uncomfortable and that's not quite as bad, right? It shouldn't be painful, but it should be uncomfortable. Okay, so if you needed to, you could have your foot flat. That's a big modification though. It really locks you into a smaller circle and it's actually harder to keep your body stable. So if you can, work with your opposite leg long on the mat, flex that foot. So we're starting to draw circles on the ceiling with our toes. And you want to make sure that the knee is always pointing to the back of the mat. Bend your leg as much as you need to. We just need to always make sure that when we start, our knee is over our hip and our knee points behind us, no matter what version you're doing. And then just starting to do your circles. If you are working up to a bigger circle, looking out, paying attention for hip clicks. We don't want to let the hip continue to click. If it's clicking, it usually means that your knee is rolling out to the side, so you're externally rotating. You might be going too big too soon, or you might have to keep a bit of a bend in your leg. And you'll notice that even the small circles, the body tries to counter sway your leg, and that is what you use your arms for. That is the job of your arms, is to keep everything still and stable. And you really do have to tense up your core quite a bit, like you were anticipating a punch to the stomach. That's how I usually cue it, right? You tense everything up, but just don't let the shoulders round with it. Pause, and you're going to go the opposite way. Work up to your bigger circles. And I sort of describe it as using your arms to absorb the movement, or your fingertips sort of absorb the movement. Okay, let's switch. So remember, stretch before and stretch after. Aim to keep the back of the head and the shoulders on the mat with quite a bit of a tuck in your chin as you are bringing the leg in. Make this uncomfortable so that when you release it, that's not quite as bad. And then anchor with the arms. Make sure your shoulders are anchored. You got a bit of a tuck in the chin, and we're starting to draw a small little circle, keeping your leg as straight as you can, but you can bend as much as you need to, it's fine. And if you get a hip click, make it smaller. Make sure your knee isn't rolling out, but fix it. Don't just keep doing it with the hip clicks, especially when you do the bigger ones. We're going to pause and go the opposite way. So each time around, maybe getting a little bit deeper, maybe going a little bit wider, but just remember there's only so wide that you can go. All right, 3, 2, and 1 knee in. Okay, both of our knees in. Take a second, stretch it out however you need to. Remember a good one to come back to, this one where we roll onto our side with our legs bent and you bring your knee back. That's one that you can bang out real quick, and it's easy to do on both sides too. So when you're ready, both of the legs lift up into the air. Number one rule of Pilates, the moment both of our feet are in the air, you're going to make sure that your low back isn't arching off the mat. And we want to actually just use our training wheel, use our training wheels here. Make sure that we are anchoring the low back to the mat. So you're actively pressing your low back down, pulling your belly button into the spine. Lift the heels up. Try to straighten your legs as best as you can. It's fine if your legs are bent, but just make sure that your knees are at least over your hips. This is over your hips. I naturally just kind of want to have my knees in here. So doing whatever feels best. And then starting to draw little circles on the ceiling with the toes. Toes or knees, whatever works. You are watching, it's when the heels drop that your back will try to arch. So just watching that doesn't happen. And remember, our helpful hints, number one, don't go too deep, don't go too wide. This seems like a simple, easy little movement, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to drop it. I'm going to kick my things. You end up trying to make it really deep and really wide, but you're going to tire it way too soon. So keep it under control. Don't go too deep, don't go too wide. Okay, let's make sure we're moving the same. So we're going to start with our feet touching. That's our big giant leg, right? We either have 2 skinny legs when your legs are separate, or 1 big giant leg when your feet are touching. So we have our back anchored. We've got our 1 big giant leg. Let's separate the feet slightly, lower slightly, touch, and lift. Separate, lower, touch, lift. Learn to use your hands here. Decide how you want to use your arms. Do you like to push into your fingertips when you're lowering, or do you like to push into your fingertips when you're lifting? Or do you press equally, with equal intensity the entire time? But decide how you want to use your arms. And then let's just pause. When the feet are touching, you're going to go the opposite way. You're going to lower slightly, separate, lift, touch, lower, separate, lift, touch. Right, so these are already getting fairly intense, even for me, and I'm not going very deep with these at all. Like I said, you will tire too quick if you go too deep or too wide with these. Keep them nice and slow. Last ones, knees in. So remember, you got to do a lot of hip stretching when we do this stuff. These are intense on your hips, so you want to take your time to create whatever stretches you want for your hips, or not create, but do whatever stretches you want. Okay, on your back, bring your knees in, roll your head, neck, and shoulders up, knees close to your face. We're going to roll the shoulders down. Keep the neck nice and long. Bring your arms up and over and feel your head get nice and heavy in your hands. So belly button's pulled in. We're starting to, and you can see how my knees are here. This is knees over the hips. You are not starting there. You want them in nice and close. So curl your knees in even closer and release slightly. Curl it in close, release just slightly. Watching that there's no movement from the waist to the top of the head when you're first learning these. And when we're doing them, but the whole way that we've been doing them the last little while, we're not really moving from the waist to the top of the head. You're learning to keep that stable, and it is the core facilitating the movement of your legs. So now lift your heels up and do that same movement. Curl it and hold and release. That's what you really want to learn, is the hold. You want to learn how to hold it. It doesn't matter how high you lift. You just want to learn to hold. Because it's in that hold that we start to, okay, curl and hold, separate to 2 skinny legs, lower slightly, touch your feet back together. You slowly lift. Slowly do a tailbone curl up. Switch, touch, lift, separate, lower, touch. Okay, last ones. Knees and lower down. Take a second, bring your feet flat, come right into some counter stretches. Touch your heels with your middle finger, arms a bit of ways away from you. Anchor the back to the mat, start to peel up. Vertebrae by vertebrae, we're lifting. Vertebrae by vertebrae, lowering. Vertebrae by vertebrae, lifting. Vertebrae by vertebrae, lowering. Okay, so we'll lower down, knees in. Now, if anyone wants to, you can take a second and do an actual rollover. Now's probably not the time. I mean, if you've never tried them before, you can try, but we won't do a whole sequence. But just for anyone that's been doing them for a while and it's part of your routine, if you want to do your rollover, go ahead and do it. Just remember, we don't turn the head. You're going to look at the ceiling. Don't turn to look at me. Look at the ceiling. Okay, when we're ready, let's come out. And we'll come up and over onto our hands and knees. Water break. Okay, reach your fingers forward from your child's pose. Send your tailbone to the back of the mat. Reach your fingers forward to the top of your mat and then come forward. Drop your hips. Move your shoulders back. On your hands and knees. So wrist under the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. You want your hands, your wrists a smidge wider than your knees. If you were here and you brought your hands back, they should fit onto either side of your knees, right? So your hands are a little bit wider than your knees. Let's do right toes, left fingertips out and up. Bring your right heel towards your glutes. Reach your right hand around you, grab a hold of your foot. Push the foot into the hand. So you have to keep leaning, whatever leg is in the air. My right leg is in the air, so I'm going to lean to the right. And keep pushing the mat away from you. So I'm pushing the mat away, leaning to the right. And that's helping keep my balance. Inhale. As we exhale, bring your hand down. So fingers nice and wide. All we're going to do is a small little pulse up. You're not letting your knee drop, right? You want to think if you're hip beaming at the mat and think about that lean to the right. That's always the hard part. Lean to the right until the left knee is under your hip. And you shouldn't see your left calf or heel. They're hidden behind your thigh. So there's lots of little alignment points that make this quite uncomfortable. Small, tiny little pulses up, high for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring your knee in. I'm going to widen my hand slightly. So we're going to lift it right up and out to the side. If you look over your shoulder, your calf and your heel are hidden behind your thigh. And remember, lift and hold. Lift and hold and release. Lift and hold and release. 2 more. Last ones. Lift and hold and release. Push it back. Bring your right foot to the outside of your right hand. I'm going to move my back knee back to help intensify it a bit. So hands stay nice and wide. We start with our shoulder to knee connection and hands are wide. Then turn your toes and your knees up. Just don't move your heel. If you want to lower onto your opposite forearm, you might want to do a bit of a twist towards your leg. Just whatever version you're doing, making sure that your neck stays nice and long. You don't collapse into your shoulders. And then once you've been down here for a while, right, you're able to be on both of your forearms. You don't have to stay on both of your forearms, but you're able to be on both of them. That's when, if you want work at extending your leg out. Just always making sure that we don't fight through tension in the side and the back of your knee. Okay, tuck the back toes, lift the back knees, step that front foot back, and send it back into a downward dog. So from here, same thing on the right side. Again, reach your toes up. And we're not stacking the hips. Keep that head beaming at the mat 5 times. Tap your toes, lift your leg, tap your toes, lift your leg for 3, lift, 2, lift, last one's tap, lift, bring your right knee to the left, and then circle it, drag it, hop, stir it, all the way back to the right. Lower down onto your forearms, widen your elbows, walk your elbows forward, and rest your head in your pigeon. And remember, if pigeon doesn't feel great for your hips, do any other hip stretch that you want to do. This is hip stretch portion of class. And you should be feeling a bit of discomfort, not a bit, you should be feeling a bit to quite a bit of discomfort in your hips, just not in your knee, not in your low back. This isn't really a low back stretch. All right, hands under our shoulders, tuck the toes, step yourself back into plank. Knees to the mat, child's pose. And then again, let's come on to our hands and knees. So wrist should be a smidge wider than your knees. Let's do left toes, right fingertips out and up. Bring your heel towards your glutes, reach your arm around to grab a hold of your foot. Keep pushing the mat away from you. Push the foot into the hand, leaning to the left. My left leg is in the air, I'm leaning to the left. Inhale, and to the mat. So square the hip down, keep leaning to the left. Look at your right knee. Is your right knee under your hip? Or right calf and heel in behind your thigh? And then we are just doing that small, tucky little pulse up. Push the mat away, keep the belly button pulled in. You're not doing a big drop and lift. You're just keeping your knee lifted and doing that small, tiny, little lift up. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring it in. Whew. Widen your hands a smidge, lift it up and hold. Look out over your shoulder. You should not see your calf or your heel. Lower. Lift and hold. Lower. Exhale up. Inhale down, 3 more. Last ones. Lift and hold and lower. Knees to the mat. Push yourself back into child's pose. Come forward into plank. That's a line. Back up to your knees, back into child's pose, and then bring your left foot forward to the outside of your left hand. Keep your hands wide, shoulder to knee connection to start. Turn the toes and the knees out slightly. And remember, you're going to take a moment getting yourself down into the deepest part of your lizard lunge. If you are choosing to extend the leg out, just making sure that we don't fight through tension in the side or the back of the knee. And then you're not collapsing into your shoulders. You're keeping your neck nice and long. All right, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, bring that front foot back, knees to the mat. Child's pose, let's make our way into a downward dog. So we'll all meet in downward dog, and then lift the left leg back up, left hip beaming at the mat 5 times. We tap our toes, lift the leg, tap the toes, lift the leg for 3, lift, 2, lift, last one's tap, lift, left knee over to the right, circle it, drag it, posture it all the way to the left, and lower. So it should be left knee by your left wrist on the left side of the mat, and you're gonna walk your elbows forward, widen them a bit, and then rest your head on whatever helps you keep your neck lined up with your spine. Hands under the shoulders, step the toes, step yourself back into plank, knees to the mat, child's pose. We're just gonna get in a few dolphin planks, or planks if you prefer to do it not from your forearms and to just actually be on your hands, that's fine. I'm gonna cue us from a child's pose though. So push it back. And if you're setting up from here, you're gonna have your fingers wide and you want your wrists, elbows, and shoulders lined up. So come forward, we wanna keep the hands flat. Bring yourself forward. And remember that this is not a perfect setup, right? So you're here and you're gonna step your legs out and it leaves your butt way too high in the air. So you do have to bring it down a bit. All right, holding here. And then from here, if you want to, lowering onto your knees. So either on your knees or off your knees. The shape of the torso doesn't really change. So from shoulders to tailbone, really, you are scooped out, hollowed out. You got to tuck your tailbone as you puff up the spot in between the shoulder blades. So we want that slightly rounded out, scooped out, hollowed out shell shape. Every time you hold in plank, and it doesn't matter if it's dolphin plank or regular plank, you're holding tips of the toes, shoulders over your fingernails for 4, 3, inhale, knees to the mat, child's pose. Okay, so let's see how a dolphin plank, side dolphin plank turns for this. We're gonna do the more advanced one just because it's actually a little bit easier to cue. So it's gonna require you to try to be off of your knees when you step out. So step yourself out. Remember to bring your butt down. Now bring your right forearm parallel to the top of the mat and lower both of your heels to the right. Flexing your feet, lift your left arm up. All right, so keep your hips stacked, keep your hips lifted, push into your forearm. And if you want to, you can let your arm drape up and over as you lift your hips. Think of making a crescent moon shape with your body. Good, now just bring it back onto your forearms, knees to the mat. Child's pose, take a moment, resting. And then let's do that again. You're just gonna open up to your opposite side now. So come forward onto your forearms. Step your legs up. We're gonna keep the knees off of the mat for this one. So now I'm gonna bring my left forearm parallel and open up to the right. So drop both of my heels to the left, bring left forearm parallel. Now lift the hips up and allow that arm to drape up and over. Think of making a crescent moon shape from your fingertips to your toes. Inhale, exhale, back down onto your forearms, knees to the mat, child's pose. Okay, let's slowly make our way into our cross-legged position. So we're just going to do our regular ending, and then we'll do a nice wide-legged forward fold and hold just a moment in that. So whatever cross-legged position is comfortable for you, go ahead and come into that, or whatever seated position really is comfortable for you. I'm going to modify again for my ankle. But you don't have to sit like this. I'm just doing this for my ankle. Okay, fingertips out onto either side of you. Flip your right palm and bring your arm up and over. Roll the pinky side of your hand down. Roll your shoulder back. When you look down, ideally we've got the wrist and the elbow lined up with your hip. Lift up, hand to your knee, opposite hand behind you. Inhale to lengthen and exhale to twist. Come back to face center, flip the left palm, bring the arms up and over. And we are rolling the pinky side of the hand down, rolling the shoulder back. When you glance down, you want your wrist and your elbow to be lined up with your hip. And then come back up. Left hand to the right knee, right hand behind us, inhaling to lengthen and exhaling to twist. And then come back to center. So from here, let's bring the heels wide. So usually do something like this. Get your heels as wide as you can, just kind of do it naturally on your own. And then what you want to do, I'll show you this way. You bring your hands behind you and you pick a foot. So you lift your hips up and you use that foot to help sneak a little bit deeper. And I will sometimes use both, sometimes use one. So what you're going to decide is that, are you keeping your hands behind you, guiding your torso forward, or do you feel that you're at that threshold where you can just let gravity kind of do the work and your torso will just slowly get a little bit deeper on its own? You don't have to use your hands. And you'll be surprised at how quickly you get a bit deeper in this. It happens fairly soon. All right, so I'm here. Oh, foot cramp. We'll often get dreaded foot cramps here as well, because we go from pointing and flexing so much. So yes, this will be an intense stretch in the inner thighs. Just remember, it should not be the side of your knees or the backs of your knees. So you're going to lift up, and we want to keep our right hip on the mat, but reach your right arm up and over your head towards your left foot. Come back up. Same thing on the other side. Sorry. Okay, your cramp. Okay, last one. Left hip on the mat, left arm comes up and over. All right, bring it back up. And so from here, if you need to help yourself out of this, you're going to bring your hands somewhere on your legs and just lift your knees up as your heels come in. Hands behind you, feet flat on the mat, let the knees flap to the left and to the right. And that's always the move, that signal, and class. So good work, everyone.